Allow me also to express my profound gratitude to Queen Catherine, who sits beside me. She has taken remarkable steps to strengthen the partnership between our two nations.
Two of the most watched women in Britain stepped into the same candlelit hall at Windsor Castle. And for one December evening, every eye in the room moved between them. Queen Camilla, poised and certain at the king's side. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, crowned with a tiara so rare that no living royal had worn it in 20 years.
Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is wearing a tiara for the German state visit that I thought was just a queen one, just one, that we call the big gun.
Yet the most telling detail of the night was almost invisible. A quiet, personal tribute to Princess Diana that nearly everyone in that glittering room missed completely. Stay with me, because once you know where to look, you can't unsee it. A historic night. Let me rewind, because to understand why that room felt the way it did, you have to know what kind of night this was. It's the 3rd of December, 2025, and Windsor Castle has thrown open its doors for one of the grandest occasions in the entire royal calendar, a full state banquet held in the magnificent surroundings of St. George's Hall. The guests of honor are the President of the Federal Republic of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, and his wife, Elke Budenbender, who arrived in the United Kingdom earlier that very day. And here's the thing that gives the whole evening its weight. This is the first German state visit to Britain in 27 years. The last one was back in 1998, when President Roman Herzog was welcomed by the late Queen. Nearly 3 decades of history is pressing against the walls of that room, and everyone inside can feel it. King Charles and Queen Camilla are the hosts tonight, the anchors of the whole occasion, and right beside them, doing what they do so often now, are the Prince and Princess of Wales. From the second the cameras start rolling, you can tell exactly where the attention is going to land, on 2 women in particular. Camilla, poised and practiced, sitting at the very center of royal ceremony, and Catherine, whose every appearance at these grand dinners has become a national event all on its own. 2 women, 2 generations, 2 completely different places in the long story of the monarchy, and tonight they're sharing the same stage. The press felt it immediately, so did the public, because it's rare, genuinely rare, to see the present and the future of the crown standing side by side in the same candlelit room, where you can't quite look at one without thinking about the other. The day had built toward this slowly. President Steinmeier had been given a ceremonial welcome as his state visit began in earnest, the first day of a 3-day journey through Britain, running from the 3rd to the 5th of December. Formal greetings, pageantry, the steady, practiced rhythm of a monarchy that has performed this exact ritual for centuries. But everyone knew the real centerpiece was still coming after dark, when the doors of St. George's Hall would finally open. And that is where our 2 women walk in. The Queen's presence. Let's start with Camilla, because she sets the tone for the entire evening. She arrives dressed with that confident elegance that's come to define her as Queen. A flowing green lace gown by the designer Fiona Clare, in a green deep and rich enough to hold its own under all that golden light. There's an emerald and diamond necklace at her throat, and diamonds at her ears catching the glow of the chandeliers every time she turns her head. But look up, because the real story is sitting on her head. Camilla is wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, and this piece has a history as tender as it is grand. It was a wedding gift given by Queen Mary to the late Queen Elizabeth II, handed quietly from one queen to the next across the decades. So, when Camilla wears it now, as Charles's queen, she's placing herself right inside that unbroken line of women who have stood beside the British throne. In the silent language of royal jewelry, that is a statement, belonging, continuity, a quiet insistence that she is one of them. And there's one more detail, easy to miss but chosen with care. Across her gown, the sash of the Order of Germany, a gracious little nod to the guests of honor. Because at a state banquet, nothing is an accident. Not one sash, not one jewel, not one color. Every single choice is a message meant to be read. And Camilla's message tonight is welcome, continuity, and quiet authority. She's done this many times before, and it shows in how easily she moves through the room. As queen, the night is hers to steady, and she carries that weight with the kind of calm that only comes from years of practice. And yet, for all of Camilla's poise, the eyes of the world are already drifting somewhere else, because the Princess of Wales hasn't fully revealed her surprise yet, and the choice she is about to make is the kind that leaves royal watchers around the globe genuinely speechless. Before we step into that hall and see exactly what Catherine wore, and trust me, this is the part everyone was still talking about days later. Do me a favor and hit subscribe so the next chapter of this royal story lands with you the moment it happens. All right, back to the night Windsor won't soon forget. Catherine's debut. So Catherine walks in on Prince William's arm, and she's carrying a surprise almost nobody saw coming. The gown first, midnight blue covered in sequins by Jenny Packham, her most trusted designer, cut with a dramatic cape that pours off the shoulders and shimmers with beadwork from the neckline all the way down. It's a dress built for candlelight. It catches fire with every step she takes. But honestly, the dress isn't even the story. Look up again. For the very first time in her life, Catherine is wearing Queen Victoria's Oriental circlet tiara, the largest, and one of the most significant tiaras she has ever put on. And this piece, you really need to understand where it comes from. It was designed in 1853 under the direction of Prince Albert himself and crafted by the royal jeweler Gerard. Originally, it was set with opals, one of Albert's favorite stones. It glitters with somewhere around 2,600 diamonds, and its whole design leans into Indian inspiration, lotus flowers and mughal arches, woven into a shape you won't find on any other tiara in the royal collection. Here's what makes it extraordinary, though. It's not just the beauty, it's the rarity. Queen Victoria wrote a rule right into her will. The Oriental circlet could only ever be worn by a queen, or a queen consort, nobody else, which is exactly why you almost never see it. The late Queen Elizabeth II wore it just once, at a state banquet in Malta in 2005, and it had barely surfaced in the 20 years since. So, for Catherine to slip it on now, at this banquet, in front of the whole world, that's not a fashion choice, that's a signal. And the question every royal watcher in that room started asking themselves was the very same one you're probably asking right now. If that crown is reserved for queens, what exactly is the palace trying to tell us by placing it on Catherine's head tonight? Diana's tribute. Because here's the twist, the tiara had everyone talking. But the most personal thing Catherine wore that day, the thing that would have stopped you cold if you'd caught it, happened hours earlier in daylight, and almost everyone missed it completely. During the daytime ceremonies that opened the state visit, Catherine wore a Burberry dress with a blue coat by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen. Elegant, understated, nothing that screamed for attention. But tucked inside that quiet look was something that meant far more than fashion ever could. At her ears, earrings that had once belonged to her late mother-in-law, Princess Diana, and pinned to her coat, the Prince of Wales feathers brooch, another piece tied straight to the woman whose memory still shapes so much of this family. No announcement, no speech, no grand gesture pointing at it. Catherine simply carried a piece of Diana with her through the entire day, sewn quietly into what she wore, where only the people who knew exactly what to look for would ever find it. And that is so completely her. This is how Catherine has always chosen to honor Diana, never with spectacle, never with a public statement, but with these small, private tributes that whisper to anyone paying close enough attention. Diana was William's mother, the woman whose absence still hangs behind so many royal moments, the public ones and the private ones both. So, on a day this formal, this watched, this loud, Catherine found a gentle way to keep her in the room. And once you realize she does this on purpose, again and again, you start to wonder just how many other tributes to Diana have slipped straight past all of us, hiding in plain sight. A glittering table. Now picture the room itself, because this is where it all comes together. Inside St. George's Hall, the scale is almost hard to believe. 152 guests seated along a single mahogany table that stretches an astonishing 46 meters. Its surface a river of silver, cut crystal, and candlelight running the whole length of the room. And the guest list? It reads like the meeting point of two nations. The German supermodel Claudia Schiffer is there, with her husband, the filmmaker Sir Matthew Vaughn. So is the Strictly Come Dancing judge Matzi Mabuse, who lives in Germany. the former footballer Thomas Hitzelsperger, the composer Hans Zimmer, yes, that Hans Zimmer, and the children's book illustrator Axel Scheffler, whose drawings are loved in both countries. British political life is in the room too, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer among the guests, and gathered close around the royal party, the wider family, the Princess Royal, Anne with her husband Sir Tim Lawrence, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. It's the full working monarchy, all of them arranged around the two women anchoring the night, the Queen at the heart of the hosting, the Princess pulling the gaze of the entire world. And if you swept your eyes down that endless table, you kept coming back to the same 2 points of light. Camilla near the head of it, steady and sure, exactly where a queen belongs. Catherine further along, drawing every camera in the room toward her. Two women, one table, holding the whole evening in a quiet balance between them. Then comes the procession, and this part is pure theater. King Charles, in white tie, leads the way into the hall alongside President Steinmeier, followed close behind by Queen Camilla and the First Lady. It's a slow, deliberate walk into a room that took days to prepare, and the order of it, who walks beside whom, is a message all its own. Rank, respect, warmth, all of it written into those first few steps, before a single glass is even lifted. But the warmth on display that night had a much older, much more complicated history sitting underneath it, and the king was about to stand up and say so, out loud. Words of friendship. When Charles rises to speak, he reaches straight back into the history that ties these two nations together, and it's more tangled than you might expect. He talks about Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, the German-born prince who loved his adopted country so deeply. Because Albert belonged to the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, a German bloodline that once ran directly through the heart of the British royal family. And it was only in 1917, in the middle of the fierce anti-German feeling of the First World War, that the family changed its name to Windsor. They took the name of the very castle this banquet is being held in. Sit with that for a second. The family's own name is a monument to the moment they were trying to put distance between themselves and Germany. Then Charles turns to the present. He points to the Kensington Treaty, a defense initiative signed between the United Kingdom and Germany, named for the London borough where it was sealed, at the Victoria and Albert Museum. And in choosing that name, he draws a straight line from the past to the future, from Victoria and Albert to a modern partnership between two allied democracies. Because this visit isn't just ceremony, it lands at a real moment in Europe, with both nations focused hard on security, on defending democracy, on cooperation in a world that feels less certain by the year. And here's the detail that ties it all back to the two women at the center of the night. Even Catherine's tiara was part of the message. The Oriental circlet was born from the vision of Prince Albert, a German prince, which made it a quiet, deliberate nod to the guests of honor. Royal experts caught it instantly. Nothing about her look was accidental. It spoke of continuity, of shared heritage, of a new era beginning, all at the same time. Which raises a bigger question, one worth holding on to. If a single December banquet could carry this much hidden meaning, what did the rest of Catherine's remarkable year actually add up to? A year of banquets. Because this German visit didn't happen in a vacuum. Nothing this family does happens purely by accident. It capped off an extraordinary run for the Princess of Wales, 3 state banquets in a single year, each one a major event in its own right. The first came on the 8th of July, when Catherine joined William to welcome the French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte. That night she wore a striking red silk gown by Sarah Burton for Givenchy, and chose the lover's knot tiara, the piece commissioned by Queen Mary in 1913, the one that became Diana's most worn tiara and is now among Catherine's own favorites. The second landed on the 17th of September for the United States President Donald Trump and the First Lady, Melania Trump. Catherine dazzled that evening in a gold lace gown by Philippa Lepley, and once again reached for the lover's knot tiara, that same piece so bound up with Diana that its presence always carries a soft echo of her. And then came December, the German banquet, the last of the 3, and in a lot of ways the most talked about. Because this time, Catherine stepped away from the familiar lover's knot and debuted the rare Oriental circlet instead. Think about what that shift actually says. The earlier dinners honored Diana through her favorite tiara. This one reached further back, all the way to Victoria herself, and placed Catherine inside a lineage usually reserved for queens. 3 banquets, 3 carefully chosen looks, and one thread running quietly through all of them. So, if each tiara was telling a story about where Catherine is heading, the real question is what happens when you put her and Camilla in the same frame and ask which of them the night truly belonged to. Sharing the stage. And that's the thing so many people got wrong about this night. They went in looking for rivalry. What they got was partnership. Camilla and Catherine weren't fighting over the spotlight. They were sharing it, each one playing a distinct, essential role in the very same performance. Camilla stood as the settled, experienced queen, the steady host at the king's side, wearing a tiara handed down through the line of British queens and a sash honoring the visiting nation. Catherine stood as the future, radiant, modern, wearing a piece of Victorian history reserved for queens and queens-to-be, while carrying Diana quietly into the day. Put them together, and you get the whole story of the monarchy in a single evening, the present and the future, the established and the rising, the queen who steadies the crown today, and the princess who will one day help to carry it. There was no drama between them, no conflict, no tension, just 2 women, standing exactly where duty had placed them, doing the quiet, demanding work of representing a nation in front of the entire world. Watch the footage back and you can read it in their body language. Camilla, entirely at home in a role she has grown fully into. Catherine, carrying the newer, heavier weight of a crown that is still years away, neither one crowding the other, both of them somehow lifting the very same night. And that's the real truth of what happened at Windsor Castle that December night. 2 of the most famous women in Britain shared the spotlight at one of the grandest events of the year. What they shared that night was far more than a spotlight. It was a glimpse of exactly how the modern monarchy wants the whole world to see it. Not a house divided, but a family in motion, honoring its past while stepping toward its future. The chandeliers, the gowns, the tiaras, the deep entangled history, all of it serving the very same purpose. Together, they framed a picture of continuity that no speech alone could ever deliver. So, here's the question worth sitting with. Between Camilla's timeless elegance as queen and Catherine's dazzling debut of a tiara unseen for 20 years, which of the 2 do you think truly owned the spotlight that night? Drop your answer down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look inside one of the year's most glittering royal evenings, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss the next chapter of the royal story.